Oh, sure.
And last meeting, I had to send it to Ray that I thought it was snowboarding.
Okay.
But anyway, so
You guys have a website I can
transportation. Now it's moved up even further. So I'm wondering if they can move it back.
Yeah.
Just to give me a little bit of space to put my knees. So I don't have to sit askew.
Yeah.
That might help.
Thank you.
Computer tower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
tower. Huh.
Yeah. It's right.
We'll be starting in less than a minute. I call to order and welcome you to the Middletown, Ohio regular City Council meeting for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Please join me for a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. You will hear 3 taps of the gavel when it is time to stand. Please join me in a moment of meditation now.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk of Council, Mrs. Amy Skank, please call the attendance roll.
Mr. Lawley.
Present.
Mrs. Carter.
Here.
Mr. West.
Here.
Mr. Horn.
Here.
Mayor Slanka.
Here. Thank you. The first item on the agenda this evening is citizen comments. A professional presentation is expected. However, I do not see any citizen comments this evening. Are there any citizen comments this evening? Last minute. No? All right. Then we will go on to the next item on the agenda, which is council comments. The next agenda item, we will begin to my left with Councilmember Lally, followed by Councilmember Carter, and then to my right with Councilmember West, followed by Councilmember Horn. And I will speak last. Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to give a shout out to a few things that are going on. Thank staff for their hard work, and I want to particularly put a shout out to the Middletown Port Authority and the Butler County Finance Authority for forging and cementing a relationship of going further to help economic development in Middletown. And I think it's going to be just a great partnership that's just going to allow some great regional growth, especially here in Middletown, that will once again make Middletown a better place. They will be able to help tremendously on the downtown revitalization, the Route 4 corridor, possibly the town mall, and other areas of Middletown. And the Butler County Finance Authority is going to be positioned to really help Butler County out on a regional level and really make this part of the Sunday corridor really thriving, and we can only benefit from that. So thank you to the Middletown Port Authority and the Butler County Finance Authority. And then in particular, you know, we've got the downtown refresh on March 11th, Tuesday night from 5 to 7 in downtown, or here in council chambers. So we want to hear what people have to say. So I think that's another step that's proven that, you know, we're going in the right direction. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lally. Mrs. Carter.
Good evening. Not a lot to say. I wanted to say that I did go to the 17 Strong on Saturday in Hamilton, and one thing that caught my eye was something they called the cube. And I was really, I was surprised by it because it was something that they placed in the community with tools, bags, and a lot of implements that they could use to clean up the neighborhood, and they would situate them in different neighborhoods. And I thought that was a great idea, but not a lot to say.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Carter. Mr. West.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing to bring everybody's attention to tonight. With it being Fat Tuesday and tomorrow's Ash Wednesday, that means fish fries are returning to town. And so the local Council 1610 for Knights of Columbus, they host probably the biggest fish fry, definitely in Middletown, possibly one of the biggest ones in the county. And that starts Friday night at 1300 First Avenue from 5 to 8 p.m., which is the FOE Lodge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Horn.
Good evening. First, I want to give some compliments out. I went to the Middletown Rotary this afternoon, and Self gave a great presentation. And that organization, which is Butler County based, they help seniors and disabled folks with repairing their homes. And we've had them come here before and give presentation, but it's always good when they actually go out to other groups and meet and kind of reaffirm what they're doing, how they're doing it, where they get their funding from, and where they do need help with volunteers. And they actually, and I want to say also appreciate them work, that staff and Acting City Manager Combs is working with them on some of the land that we have in the area that they could potentially even build a new home and help with what they called low or medium income. So it's always good to know that we have groups here that are actually helping our citizens. To me, that's important, that if you're going to claim that you're doing that, that you actually are helping our citizens and not just having a title and drawing a salary. Next compliment I want to give, I read an article in the Journal, and I think it was about a year ago I requested that the school district give us a presentation, and apparently they were busy, so I read in the paper that they, instead of letting it go organically, they actually did something because they had a concern about having excessive absences, and they were at 44%. So what the school district did is they actually reached out to parents and guardians and worked with them, and they went from 44% down to 33%. But what I also appreciate is they made also a little bit of a competition with the students and rewarded them for having that, bringing that attendance down. And there's nothing wrong with competition. When you get out of school, you're going to have competition one way or another. And you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have successes, you're going to have failures, whether you're doing it on your own or in a team environment. But I just want to give a compliment to the school district for helping that, because the thing is, and the article even brought it out, if you're not in school, you're not going to learn. It's just very simple. And you only have so much time while you're in school. And then you really only have 4 areas that you're going to go to. You're going to go directly into the workforce, and that's going to be a challenge for probably your 20s. You can go into the military, and a lot of folks do that because they want to serve their country, but also they want to take advantage of getting their college paid for. Or they do what I did, which I went into the trades, which is 4 years. Or you go into a 2-year or 4-year program. So in those areas, you can't have high absenteeism, so they're trying to help train you with that. And another program, which I do appreciate, with the Chamber of Commerce and the school district does, is the workforce development. That really helps us on this side, the company known as City of Middletown. Because when an employer starts looking at our city, one of the questions they're going to ask is, what type of workforce do you have? And we have to give that answer. And they would prefer, and me being an employer myself, even though I do journey a lot, but most brick and mortar employers, they prefer their employees to be 5, 10, 15 minutes away. So instead of 30 to 45 to an hour away, mainly because of inclement weather, because sometimes people just don't feel like going to work if they have to drive for a while. So the school district and the Chamber of Commerce are doing an absolute amazing job to make sure that these students know this is where we're trying to head. We're trying to help build the city, and we're trying to bring more employers in here, because what pays the bills for the city? That would be employment tax. So I always like to give compliments when people actually are doing things to make it better for all involved, and I just want to give those compliments to those 2 groups. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. The City of Middletown is asking our residents, as Mr. Lalial already pointed out, and stakeholders to participate in the downtown refresh. As he said, there's a preliminary survey that's live on our city website until this Friday, March 7th. We'd ask that you share this with your friends and family, and also, as he mentioned, the town hall that's going to be next Tuesday, March 11th from 5 to 7 in these chambers. For more information, you can please visit cityofmiddletown.org and scroll all the way down to latest news. Also this Friday, March 7th, is First Friday in downtown Middletown. Are you a basketball fan? Enjoy March Madness downtown discounts and dunk on your friends to win big-time discounts at our local businesses. For more information, please visit downtownmiddletown.org. This Saturday, March 8th, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. is DMI's annual Girl Scout Cookie Walk. There will also be a Cookie Monster scavenger hunt, and this is also your chance to buy your early bird tickets at Triple Moon to DMI's annual Women's Wine and Chocolate Walk, scheduled for May. The Girl Scout Cookie Walk is a fun-filled afternoon for cookie and wine lovers in our beautiful and historic downtown Middletown. For more information, please visit downtownmiddletown.org. The March Walk with a Doc is next Saturday, March 15th, beginning at 9 a.m. in a special location inside the downtown YMCA, located at 1020 Manchester Avenue, and participants are asked to go upstairs to the track. That's where they will be walking. This is a wonderful way to get out, connect with others, learn about health topics, and get exercise. Walk with the Doc occurs every 3rd Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. in Middletown. There's so much going on for St. Patrick's Day weekend. Kick off the festivities next Saturday, March 15th, with a wonderfully whimsical event called Book Around Middletown, presented by Kiwanis Middletown. Gather 4 teammates, decorate a shopping cart in a children's book theme, and race around downtown Middletown in costume to win bragging rights. If you cannot participate in a cart this year, come and watch the hilarious antics. Meet at the City Building's Donham Plaza from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. All proceeds benefit the Butler County Dolly Parton Imagination Library. For more information, please email kiwanismiddletownoh@gmail.com. Next on the schedule for Saturday, March 15th will be the city's St. Patrick Day Parade. The fun begins at 4 p.m. and ends at Governor Square, where the wee little kiddos can build a leprechaun trap. The fun for all continues at 6 p.m. with a concert at Governor's Square featuring the beautiful live Celtic Americana music of Doulahan. Also that evening will be the Downtown Middletown Pub Crawl from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. For more information about these events, please visit City of Middletown events on Facebook or visit downtownmiddletown.org. After the parade from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., join in at the MAC, Middletown's gorgeous art center downtown, for Fire and Ice, an experience event. The MAC Fire and Ice event is bringing the heat and the cool with an evening packed with mesmerizing experiences such as live glass blowing, bourbon and spirit tastings, signature handcrafted cocktails, a liquid nitrogen ice cream bar, and other fun experiments, and the exclusive exhibit Glass Through the Lens of an Artist. This is an event to remember and admission is free. For more information, please visit middletownartcenter.com. After your evening of Fire and Ice, head over to our historic Sorg Opera House located at 63 South Main Street in downtown Middletown for some hot tunes starting at 8 p.m. with The Rush Experience, a true Rush Experience act. The band's repertoire spans Brush's entire career from their 1974 debut album through 2012's epic swan song, Clockwork Angels. For more information and to buy tickets, please visit sorgoperahouse.org. After such an action-packed weekend, you may need a refreshing beverage or two. Continue the St. Patrick's Day fun on Monday, March 17th at Merkel's Tavern, located at 1224 Central Avenue in downtown Middletown, where you can try green beer and Irish trash cans. I looked it up, and Irish trash cans seem to be quite the potent green cocktail, and it is said that they taste deliciously sweet. If you're looking for good fun, good food, and good drink on St. Patrick's Day, join in at Merkel's Tavern from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. The City of Middletown accepts applications for our boards and commissions throughout the year, so if there is something that you have an interest in and you wish to give back to your city in this way, please do submit your application. To learn more, please visit the city's website at cityofmiddletown.org. Lastly, and as always, there are many ways to get involved with your community and give back. Join a board or committee, run for office, apply for a job with the city, volunteer at the hospital, pick up trash in your neighborhood or park, plant a garden in your yard, smile at a neighbor, find joy and satisfaction for a job well done in whatever work you do, or just have a positive and giving attitude. Find something that you can do regularly and give back. We are all connected. We are all in this together. The care of our city is an adventure in which we all get to share. That is all for me tonight, and this concludes council comments. The next item on the agenda is city manager reports. Acting City Manager Ms. Ashley Combs, you have the floor.
Good evening. So the only item I have tonight is a presentation by the Butler County Regional Transit Authority. So I would like to invite down Matt Dukovich to give that presentation to council.
You like?
Small urbanized area. Basically what that does is it streamlines the whole process to bring funding for transit into the city. Essentially, BCRTA is operating the city's transit system right now, save for a few pieces. The one thing we're not allowed to do, we're not permitted to do by the Federal Transit Administration, is oversee our own operations. That is a requirement of the city as the grantee. One of the benefits of executing this MOU is the city would get out of that oversight business and would free itself from the oversight of FTA and ODOT for transit purposes. So we see that as a big piece there. It would allow the city to eliminate that from some staff time and some needs. There's a couple of questions. I can run through them really quickly if you'd like. Some of the things I got back with the buses continue to be free of charge if this went through. The BCRTA doesn't have any ideas about changing that right now. When we did a study a couple of years ago, it was more beneficial not to collect the fares just because it cost us more money to bring all of the money in, the counting, the separating, the emptying them from the buses, the taking and depositing it. It was actually kind of a zero-sum game. You know, of course, that could change at some point if the system ever needed to raise revenue to provide operations or the volume changed so that it did make money, but that isn't the plan right now. I received a question about improving routes. The BCRTA actually already undertook a study in 2022. The city's actually done a little bit of work on this as well. to take a look at the operations. We have a plan in place that we would be happy to implement. Of course, that comes with a public comment period and input from stakeholders, the city, people who care about those services. We actually have a policy on our books for major service changes and fare increases that's required by the FTA, so we can't move forward without doing any of those things without going through some of those public comment processes. There is a provision in the MOU that provides for the city to bring local match to the party. If you're not familiar with local match, that is the portion of funding the local entity needs to bring so that the federal or state will provide their portion. The federal government only provides about 50% for operating expenses. They'll provide about 80% for capital expenses in the transit world. There are a few exceptions, but there's not many of them. So local entities have to bring that remaining 50 or 20% to the table in order to fund those operations. BCRTA is completely leveraged. We do make match it actually on a portion of your federal grants for you right now. And obviously that would continue, but there is a portion that we're not able to do that just because we don't have enough funding. The way the city receives that match right now is through a funding program that ODOT or the state of Ohio provides. So the provision in the MOU is that if ODOT ever stops providing that funding, we would need the city to put that money in. And of course, that wouldn't change whether the city remained the grantee or BCRTA became the grantee or anybody else provided your transit service. If there's no local money to draw, the federal or state money, nobody's going to be spending any of it. So that's one of the pieces there. There is a provision for that dollar figure to increase over time with CPI, which has been about 3.13% on average since 2015. That does include some of those crazy pandemic swings and also some lower numbers from before. I can tell you that somebody asked me, what does the city pay BCRTA right now? In 2024, you will have paid, when it's all caught up, about $3.7 million for transit service. A lot of that is functionally passed through. So that's your grant money that you're receiving. In the new MOU arrangement, you wouldn't pay BCRTA at all except for that local match contribution. And as long as ODOT was willing to make that match for you, you may not have to pay anything. So that is a big piece to consider there. I was asked a question about why would we be eager or why is it timely to transfer this grantee status to the RTA. I mentioned some of the duplicative efforts and the things we're doing two of. Frankly, it's maybe a little wasteful, right? We're doing two of everything, and as public stewards, I'm not sure that's the best way to get along with it if we can get away with doing it one time. If we had one grantee for transit as the BCRTA, then all of the federal programs we're required to keep, all of the audits we're required to do, we only have to do one of those. Right now, we do two. We have to do one for the city and we do one for the RTA as well. So we'd be reducing a lot of redundant work. I also mentioned, you've been working with the RTA since about 2009 to contract services. And slowly over the years, we've kind of taken on a bigger piece of that. The city doesn't retain any technical staff who do anything other than oversight for transit operations right now and drawing your money. So the city doesn't really retain a lot of that technical capacity for these types of things, whereas that is the RTA's core competency. All of our staff are well-versed in these core competencies and these transit pieces that are required to respond to the FTA's regulations and processes and things like that. Other quick things, I got asked about who would maintain the buildings. Well, RTA will maintain the building. The bus station is a federally funded asset, so as the grantee, it's our responsibility, and we would have a responsibility directly to the Federal Transit Administration to maintain that building in a state of good repair until such a time as it is moved or its useful life has ended, which is quite a bit of time. We would ask the city for a ground lease for the land underneath of it. I understand the city's probably not interested in parting with that, so until we could come up with another solution, or for as long as the city would like to keep the bus station there, we would just have a low-cost ground lease, and the city would own the property, and the RTA would own the improvements or the building on top of it. Other quick things, there is the ability to terminate the MOU. Of course, there's a lot of processes that kind of have to work in reverse to put everything back the way it was, but that's all outlined in the MOU. the marker for completing all of the changes and everything, who decides when everything is done? The answer to that question is FTA and ODOT. When all the paperwork is in order, they will bless it and put it in writing. Of course, regarding the bus station, we do have some money on a grant right now to study the improvement or remodel or relocation of it. So that's available to take a look at that piece. I think those are most of the questions I received. I know the big one was about the local match. I just want to make sure nobody has any questions about that.
Yeah, so the question I had was, in the staff report, it says the city will make an initial contribution of $550,000. So what does that actually mean? Is that coming, we're just transferring the money, or are we having to come up with additional dollars to meet that 550, or?
No, so right now, even though you paid the RTA $3.7 million last year, that really was all federal money. It was all getting passed through. You were drawing it from the Federal Transit Administration, you were drawing it from ODOT. There was no city general fund money in the transit program last year. In fact, there hasn't been for probably since about 2020. So ODOT has been funding that portion. And so the way this is worded is the city actually doesn't have to provide that contribution unless the ODOT is not providing that local funding to match those federal dollars. So it is entirely possible that if we continue as we've been going for the past couple of years, the city's contribution to transit would be zero. But that ODOT local funding program is discretionary. We have to compete for it every year. There is the potential that at some point they could reduce it or they could take it away, and that would be the point at which we'd have to kick in and say, you need to put some money in for the local match, which again, even if the city remains the grantee, you would still have to do that. You'd have to transfer general fund money into the transit program to draw that funding and pay for those things. Makes sense?
I have just a couple other questions. Will we have a spot on the board?
No. So the BCRTA board is the sole member of the RTA board is the Butler County Commission. So the Butler County Commissioners appoint all 9 of our trustees. That certainly is a separate conversation that could be taken up with that, but that is not in my power or capability to arrange any of that. I will say when a municipality or a jurisdiction issues a letter of recommendation, it is almost always taken. We don't replace a lot of trustees, but there is an opening coming up probably next year. And our board makes recommendations. We look very favorably upon recommendation letters from municipalities. I know the commissioners usually do as well.
Okay. And then, as Matt said, I tell you, I do really support BCRTA taking this over, essentially. And I can tell you just from experience, the oversight was really working in reverse because Matt was telling us how we were supposed to be doing this. I mean, that's exactly how it went. I can't, and then when we had to do the
every 3-year audit
review, I know.
What I can tell you about, because the station you currently have was funded with federal dollars, there's a federal investment in it. You can't move it or get rid of it without reimbursing the feds. So you could effectively sell the property, but you'd have to take a portion of the proceeds to reimburse the Federal Transit Administration for their investment. They will, however, allow you to take those proceeds and reinvest them in a similar kind structure or product. So that's one way to do it. But either way, if they haven't completely divested of their interest in that station, you got to pay them back somehow. There is also the opportunity that we could come up with a cooperative agreement. There's an opportunity that in the future, if the RTA has money, maybe that's something that we would do on our own. I can tell you we don't have that kind of money right now, but I wouldn't rule out that possibility in the 5 to 10 year plan.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? No? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Ms. Combs? No. All right, that concludes the city manager reports. The next order of business this evening is the consent agenda. While the consent agenda is generally for consensus items, do any council members wish to remove anything from the consent agenda this evening and move it to the motion agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will continue. Mrs. Skank, please present the consent agenda.
For your consideration this evening, we have the approval of the city council minutes from October 4th, October 28th, December 17th, 2024, and February 18th, 2025. To receive and file the Civil Service Commission minutes of January 16th and February 20th, 2025. To confirm the conditional appointments of Charles Howard Jr. to the position of Patrol Officer in the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police, and Tristan Riley to the position of Water Treatment Operator in the Department of Public Works and Utilities, Division of Water Treatment, and Casey Dean to the position of Zoning Administrator in the Community and Economic Development Department. To confirm the appointment of Ethan Harness to the position of Public Works Superintendent in the Department of Public Works and Utilities.
Thank you, Mrs. Skank. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. We will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mrs. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. Our next item this evening is the motion agenda, and we have two items on this evening. Mrs. Skank, please present item A on the motion agenda.
A motion for the following persons to be reappointed as citizen members on the Board of Trustees of the Renaissance Arena District New Community Authority for the terms identified below. Bill Becker for a 2-year term beginning retroactively on on October 3rd, 2024, and ending on October 2nd, 2026, and Joe Newland for a 2-year term beginning retroactively on October 3rd, 2024, and ending on October 2nd, 2026.
Thank you. Ms. Combs, do you have anything to add?
Just a little bit of the background of the group. So the Renaissance Area District New Community Authority, NCA, was established to assist financing for our Renaissance Point project in the East End. The main objective of the NCA is to facilitate the financing of this development by allowing to impose certain community charges within its designated area. These charges may include property assessments, additional sales tax, and bed taxes, among others.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve item A to reappoint Bill Becker and Joe Newland to the Board of Trustees of the Renaissance Arena District New Community Authority for 2-year terms ending October 2nd, 2026?
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Having been properly moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Just a quick question. You had mentioned the area itself, so just for clarification for everyone, that means is it about 50 acres?
It's 50.86 acres.
Right, so just the Renaissance Point area. All right, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote.
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter, to approve the purchase of one 2025 Case 580SN-T4 backhoe loader in the amount of $102,722.80 for the sewer department, and one 2025 Case 621GXR-T4 articulated wheel loader in the amount of $178,744.08 for the streets department from Southeastern Equipment Company, Incorporated of Monroe, Ohio. The total amount for both pieces is $281,466.88.
Thank you, Mrs. Skank. Ms. Combs, the staff report, please.
Yes. The sewer department needs to replace its backhoe, which is 73 months overdue. The streets department also requires a new wheel loader, which is 141 months past its replacement date. Both will be traded in and available through the Sourcewell purchasing program. An alternative is to continue using the current equipment, although maintenance costs are increasing. There are sufficient funds in the garage fund for these purchases.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item B to approve purchase of a backhoe loader and an articulated wheel loader?
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Having been properly moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes.
The yeses have it, and the motion passes. This concludes the motion agenda. The next item on the agenda this evening is legislation. We have 5 items of legislation this evening. Law Director, Mr. Ben Yoder, the legislation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is Resolution Number R 2025-04, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio for the period ending December 31st, 2025. This is out of the general fund and is a second reading.
Thank you. Ms. Combs, do you have anything to add?
I'll just repeat what I did last time in case there's new people listening. So this report requests $1,715.62 from the Middletown Division of Fire's Fire Prevention and Training budget to replace the deteriorating safety house, which has educated children for over 26 years. The funds will come from its upcoming auction sale. Without reallocation, the division would need to use existing budget funds. There is no financial impact on the city as the sale funds are already collected.
Excellent, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Yeses have it, and the legislation passes. Mr. Yoder, the next legislative item, please.
Second item is resolution number R 2025-05, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2025, and declaring an emergency. This pertains to the Water Fund and Water Capital Reserve Fund.
Thank you. Ms. Combs, the staff report, please.
Sure. So as mentioned, there are 3 sections to this. So the first section is the Water Fund Supplemental Appropriation. This is to authorize $660,000 for the Water Fund. It's a 3-year contract extension for lime solid removal approval. The funds were not included in the 2025 budget. Without appropriation, sludge removal could be canceled, risking overflow on adjacent properties. This is needed from the unencumbered water fund balance. Emergency legislation is required to finalize the contract, who is ready to start immediately. The second section is the Water Capital Reserve Fund Supplemental Appropriation. This is to authorize that appropriation of $14,578,906 for the Water Capital Reserve Fund. The City Council approved 2 water system projects in 2024, a water storage tank and a water treatment plant filter backwash tank. Both are funded through WRSLA, requiring a change in payment process that necessitates this appropriation. This funding is requested for each project with a $1,125,000 grant awarded to help offset the cost. Emergency legislation is requested for contractor approvals with construction set to begin in March. Section 3 is the Division of Police appropriation of funds. The Middletown Division of Police requests $29,195 from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund for case-cracker equipment. The current audio and visual systems have issues providing simultaneous recordings, which are essential for legal cases. Case-cracker, a vendor of the FBI and U.S. Army contracts, offer a reliable solution. This is classified as emergency due to the technology's necessity. Equipment may be available within 3 weeks.
Thank you, Ms. Combs. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
5 council meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Combs, the staff report, please.
Sure. The city mails about 18,500 water bills monthly. Since 2009, Smart Bill has managed the service, providing excellent service and agreeing to extend the contract through December 31st, 2025 with a slight price increase. Monthly costs are about $8,500 plus $14,000 annually for supplies. The city would absorb the postage increases. A second reading emergency is requested to finalize that 2025 contract with Smart Bill.
Thank you, Ms. Combs. As this is a second reading emergency, there is no action to be taken at this time. However, is there any discussion from council? Only question is, do we know the slight increase? It said, like the actual number? If not, we can look at it again next time. It's like a percentage, I believe, or do you have like an actual number?
It's about a half a penny per bill is what I'm told.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
I don't know about that.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you. Any other further questions or comments from council? Hearing none, we will continue. Mr. Yoder, next item, please.
The fourth item is ordinance number O 2025-10, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing extension of contracts for grounds maintenance for 2025 and declaring an emergency. Again, no actions being requested until the March 18th council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Ms. Combs, the staff report, please.
The city mows properties, including parks and other city-owned properties. Bids were received for the 22-24 contract, which involved 3 contractors. For 2025, we have 2, which is Clayton Property Solutions, who will see a 2% increase for Group 1, which is included in the staff report, and HD Lawn Care, which is 9.8% 10% increase.
Town urbanized area, a first reading.
Thank you. Ms. Combs, the staff report, please.
I have nothing additional to add from the presentation.
Excellent. As this is a first reading, there is no action to be taken at this time. However, is there any discussion from council? Hearing none, we are complete. This concludes the legislation for the evening. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Do any council members have anything they would like to bring up under unfinished business this evening? No? I was curious about maybe perhaps, is there an update on the event center heating, how that's going?
Sure. So right now, the design development contract documents for bidding are expected to be completed by the end of this month. We have asked for an update from the contractor, and when I receive that, I'll be sure to send that to you and provide that at the next council meeting.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions from council for unfinished business? Mr. Horn.
So did we have a architect engineer go through and say what size air handlers we are supposed to have in there? And what did they say? Come on down.
Mr. Scott Tadich, Public Works Director.
We're flying through this meeting, so come on. We can handle a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Tadich.
So all the results aren't in yet, but, you know, they're obviously, actually, they were at the building last week going through everything. I believe it's going to come back similar to what we thought to begin with, but they did find some other oddities, I should say, in that system, so we're still waiting on the final results.
So the tonnage that we have is incorrect.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
What's currently installed is incorrect.
Okay.
Definitely.
So if we have half of the tonnage then
Yes.
that we're supposed to have, and we have to have the correct tonnage, it's not going to be $10,000 to replace it. It's probably going to be somewhere in the hundreds.
Oh, yes, definitely in the hundreds.
I just want to be clear, because we're going to have that conversation, because we have to make this right, because we want to use this as an event center and also as a place for our seniors and such, so it has to be right. And I do believe when it was built, it was right. It was the in-between people who got to walk out of the building, not in cuffs, that did what they did to the building.
Yeah, and as we've been through this process, we've noticed even more things.
But it's imperative, because really, we can't have, for safety purposes, we can't have floor heaters, and P-tax, which is a through-a-window unit, just makes it look tacky. So if we're going to do it, we have to do it right, but I appreciate all you've done, so thank you.
So does this report get into analysis on the real need to have to do this and the need to have to do this right now?
Yeah, so what they're preparing in effect is a bid package for us to put out to bid.
So no, that's what I'm saying is, do we have to do this now? Because that was never in when we had it looked into when we purchased it. So is this something that we're doing, it's a nice thing to do or we absolutely we need to do it? Because my thought is, I mean, I think the event center needs to generate some revenue before we take current funds out that we have.
HPC license would have said, no, this is what the system was designed for, this is what the ductwork was designed for, this is the square footage that has to be for the design. And they decided, nope, we'll save some money and we'll put two 25-unit tons in there and it will push air. So to your point, if someone is renting this in June, and we have a normal June toward the end of June, and that air's not pushing, and they're in suits, in dresses, and it's not cooling it down, we're going to get bad reviews. Same thing in the wintertime. If we have a party there, and the human heat is not generating enough, and it's cold, we're going to get bad reviews. So the units that are there will push the air, but not as per the design of the original building for the square footage by the main.
And I fully understand that.
Okay.
It's my understanding that there weren't those complaints when they were having stuff in there previously. So
I can't speak.
my point, I get it at the end, and that's all I'm wondering is, are they going to say, hey, after analysis and seeing what's going on, you guys better do this now, or can we wait until, and that was the initial thought, that this facility would generate some revenue and then use that revenue to do projects like that, as opposed to having to get into parts of our budget now that weren't intended for that.
I think
That's all.
I think
That's all. I get them preparing the bid package, but I thought the direction we gave was to also, do we really need to do this now? Is it critical?
Well, again, I think it's depending on your level of service expectations for the HVAC system in that facility.
Yeah. And once again, when they were running it before as the central connections, I was told by people, no, we really didn't have those problems where when we had wedding receptions there and other things there, that there was a problem with the heat and the cold.
Can get with her and get back to you on that.
Okay.
I'd like to have a conversation.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other unfinished business or further comments? No? All right, that concludes the,
Yeah.
yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
The yeses have it, and the motion passes. Council will now move to executive session. Do we have a motion to return to open session?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to return to open session. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter? Yes. Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
Yeses have it, and the motion passes. Council will now return to open session. Is there a motion to appoint Ms. Ashley Combs as the permanent city manager pursuant to Article 2, Section 1 of the Middletown City Charter, subject to the law director negotiating an employment agreement with Ms. Combs for presentation to council at a future meeting?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter? Yes. Mr. West?
Yes.
The yeses have it, and the motion passes. I'd just like to say congratulations, Ms. Combs. Thank you very much. We will be talking. This concludes our regular city council meeting for Middletown, Ohio, Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, at 7:03 p.m. This meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, at 5:30 p.m. in these chambers for our next regular city council meeting. Thank you and good night.